Storm was the most dangerous horse in the entire region, untouchable, uncontrollable. Cursed, they said. No one came near him without getting hurt. No one dared to look him in the eyes. No one, except her. On the night before his planned sacrifice, something happened that no one could explain. The moon hung low, the ranch was asleep, and an invisible, forgotten girl stepped toward him without a single word. No fear, no hesitation, only silence. And in that exact moment, the monster did something that left the entire town speechless. What no one ever noticed began with a girl no one missed. Isabella was the child who lived in the shadows, thin as a line, barefoot, her eyes wide with hunger and fear. She knew no door that opened for her, no name that was called, no voice that searched for her. People only saw the dirt on her skin, never the silence in her heart. Every morning she slipped through the marketplace. She moved like a breath of wind, careful and soundless, so no one would chase her away. Some tossed her a hardened piece of bread. Others ignored her as if she were made of air. Isabella had learned that invisibility could sometimes be protection, but deep inside, a single wish burned: to be seen. Just once. Behind the ranch, she found a place that felt safer than any street. Between two old wooden beams, there was a narrow gap where she could look into the pen. That was where Storm stood. The horse every man feared, a black giant, wild, unpredictable, a creature not broken, but broken in two. Storm stomped, snorted through his head. His whole body trembled with tension. Every muscle spoke the same language: pain, fear, distrust. Men called him cursed, damaged, dangerous. But Isabella saw something they didn't. She saw the same loneliness that lived inside her. The same wound no one understood. Day after day she watched him, not out of curiosity, but because she felt he was searching for something. Something quiet. Something that didn't hurt. Their first encounter happened on a night quieter than usual. The ranch slept. The wind moved the dry leaves like whispering voices. And Isabella slipped through the fence she had loosened in secret. Storm noticed her instantly. His head snapped up. His hooves clawed at the ground. Any adult would have run. Isabella stayed. She sat down in the dust, wordless, defenseless, yet stronger than every man who had feared him. Storm raged. Then he froze. His breath trembled. Seconds stretched into minutes, and suddenly something shifted. His gaze softened. Not tame, not safe, but different. Calmer. Deeper. For the first time in years, Storm grew still, not through force, not through dominance, but through the presence of an invisible child who was finally seen by a condemned creature. The morning everything was decided, the air hung heavy over the ranch. Men stood in a half circle around the pen. No one spoke. No one dared to look directly at Storm. The black stallion struck against the wooden boards like a creature that felt more than humans ever allowed themselves to feel. Every hoofbeat was a protest, a cry for help, a pain no one wanted to hear. Then came the sentence that sealed everything. "We're going to kill him." Don Ernesto's voice was hard, harder than usual, perhaps because he didn't want anyone to notice his hesitation. Isabella heard the words from the shadows. Her small heart clenched as if someone had wrapped a fist around it. Storm was going to die, the only living being that had ever truly noticed her, in a way that hurt and healed at the same time. She wanted to scream, but no sound came out. Instead, she ran, away from the voices, away from the pain that had no name. But the following night, she returned, as always, as if their silent meetings were secret rituals between two lost souls. She slipped back through the gap in the fence. Storm stood restless, muscles twitching, eyes wild. When he noticed her, he froze. The world seemed to quiet. Isabella sat down. In the dust, knees pulled to her chest, just like on the first night. Again she spoke no word. and again it happened. Storm calmed. His breathing deepened. His movement softened. He lowered his head as if recognizing a familiar presence. She came every night, sometimes with a dry crust of bread, sometimes with nothing but her silent heart, and each time Storm changed a little more. But secrets have short legs. Ramon, the foreman, heard a sound one night. He grabbed his lantern, walked to the pen, and froze as if struck by lightning. There in the dust sat the girl, and Storm stood before her, not wild, not dangerous, but protective. Ramon yanked Isabella out, shouting, cursing, letting his fear erupt. Storm screamed so loudly the entire stable shook. The next day the village swelled with rumors. The child is a witch. She bewitched the animal. Storm is only waiting. One day he will kill her. But Don Ernesto watched Storm in secret. He saw the change, not tame, but awake, not broken, but connected. And deep inside him a thought grew he could not speak aloud. Maybe this girl wasn't a curse. Maybe she was the only thing that had ever saved this creature. The morning of the sacrifice did not begin like an ordinary day. It began like a sentence. A cold fog hung over the ranch, heavy and damp, as if even the air had chosen to remain silent. Storm raged inside the pen. His hooves struck the wood like thunder. His breath trembled with panic. He did not know what was coming, but he felt it. Animals sense the end long before humans dare to speak it. The men stood in a half circle, faces hard, eyes lowered. No one saw Storm as a living being, only as a danger that needed to disappear. The village gathered, children who were too curious, old men who muttered, "It was time," women who crossed themselves, and among them a veterinarian silently opening his leather bag. The syringe lay ready. Don Ernesto held the papers in his hand. Everything was prepared. Storm's breathing grew wilder. His body trembled as if it could collapse at any moment. Seconds passed, like the last grains in an hourglass. And then it happened. A sound cut through the stillness, not loud but clear, a rhythm that drifted gently across the earth. Bare feet, light, calm. The crowd turned, and for a moment time seemed to stretch. Isabella walked through the people, a thin girl, little more than a shadow, yet with a gaze stronger than any voice. The crowd stepped back instinctively, without thinking. No one understood what they were seeing. No one knew why she was here. But Isabella knew. She kept walking, step by step, her face calm, her heart burning. Don Ernesto lifted his hand in warning, but no sound left his lips. The veterinarian whispered something no one understood. Ramon called her name, but she did not hear him. She opened the gate. A scream tore through the crowd. "No, he'll kill her." But Isabella stepped inside. Storm lost control. He reared up, massive, like a black wave of muscle and fear. Dust exploded into the air. The crowd screamed. The veterinarian stumbled backwards. Isabella stayed still. No running, no shaking, not even breathing. She stood before him, directly before him. This moment, Storm came down. His wild eyes locked onto hers. A shiver ran through his body. A second breath. And then, the impossible. He took a step, then another, and lowered his head against her chest. The silence that followed was sacred. Women began to cry. Ramon let his hat fall. The veterinarian lowered the syringe. And Don Ernesto, the man who wanted Storm dead, tore the papers in half. Then again and again. The wind carried the pieces away like the dust of an old curse. Storm was saved. Isabella was seen. And the village stood speechless before the miracle of two souls who healed each other. The morning that saved a life was the same morning a new one began. Storm was never tamed. He was understood. Isabella was no longer a nobody. Storm was no longer a monster. two lost beings found a home inside each other's soul. And maybe that is the truth we all forget sometimes. You don't need to be strong to heal. You need to be seen. You need to be felt. You need to be understood. This story invites you to reflect, who have you saved in your life, or who may have saved you? To comment, who is the person who changed your life? Share it below. Your words might give someone hope today. To share, send this video to someone who needs to be reminded that even the most broken souls are capable of miracles. To subscribe, if you want more true, deep, and moving stories, become part of our Zeitgeist Stories family. Here we speak of courage, of soul, of light in the darkness, of those rare moments when two wounded beings touch, and the world changes forever. Thank you for being here. Thank you for feeling. Thank you for walking this path with us. Spirit to spirit, your Zeitgeist Stories.